Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chalk Talk with the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, Taylor Jenkins. We want to welcome all our MVPs today for joining us, and, of course, welcome the head coach of the Grizzlies, Taylor Jenkins, who joins us here this afternoon. Coach, how you doing today?
Fish, I'm doing well. It's kind of hard to hear you. I'm sorry to admit that right now. So hopefully you guys can hear me, but very excited to be here. Hope there's a lot of Grizz fans logged on right now. So very excited to be here with everyone today.
Yeah, we want to thank all the MVPs for joining us today, and thanks for their questions as well. We'll be getting to some of those questions here over the next 40 minutes, and there were a lot of questions regarding COVID-19, and as we know, testing did begin Tuesday around the NBA for teams that are traveling to Orlando, but it's a fluid situation. We don't have all the details. It is a process, and there are privacy issues, and frankly, Coach and I don't have the answers, so we won't be talking a lot about that here today. But speaking of, Grizzlies are distributing 20,000 Believe Memphis face masks throughout the community, including like the one that I'm holding up here. Grizzlies fans can pick up their Believe Memphis face masks at the Grizz Den at FedEx Forum when it reopens July 9th. It'll be open Thursday through Sunday from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. Also, they can pick up their Believe Memphis masks from numerous partner locations beginning on June 29th while supplies last. Season ticket holders can pick them up here at FedEx Forum today from 4 to 6 p.m., tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. And, Coach, these are good-looking masks. You got yourself a hold of one yet?
Yes, I've got one. It's in my office, so very excited to be rocking that here in Memphis, obviously when we go to Orlando. But tremendous by our organization to put that out into our community. Obviously very important right now as we all continue to practice social distancing and every protective measure that we can. We're in a unique situation right now, but to be able to provide a way to help so many members of our community, obviously our loyal fans, our great fans here, the Grizzlies. Hopefully everyone's coming out the next couple of days, and as you said, when the Den gets open, to grab their mask as well and show that Grizzlies pride.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's unique, it's strange, weird, whatever word you want to use, but how excited are you to get back with your guys?
So excited. I've gotten that question a number of times, and to me, the excitement's really about just getting together with the guys, getting together with our staff, our coaches, our players. Obviously, we're fortunate. Our entire team's here in market working out on a voluntary basis. Next week, July 1st, is when it becomes mandatory for everyone to be in the building working out, but our guys are putting in the time and the effort right now to just try to give us as many advantages as possible as we make our trek to Orlando, and we have our prep time there. But I'm just so excited to get back to basketball, and what it really matters to me is just all the great chemistry and relationships we have with each other. We've missed each other. We've probably, like many of y'all watching today, have been on Zoom nonstop doing meetings and interviews and phone calls, and whether it's for work or for personal. I'm just so excited to be in person with everyone again and just get this thing back up and running and try to put a great stamp on the rest of our season and make this playoff push.
You haven't been able to be around the guys until this week, but leading into this week, what had you heard from the players and about what they're doing to stay in shape and playing basketball?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's had different circumstances. I think we've been pretty fortunate where a good majority of our guys have been in Memphis during this hiatus. A couple of guys have gone outside the state to be closer to family. Completely have respected that. Just, Tyus, for example, just had a baby, so big congratulations to him. And so many guys were going and spending time with their families that were in other states and, doing everything that we were supplying them with. Many of these guys outfitted, separate rooms or maybe their garages as a new weight center. And our performance team did an unbelievable job staying connected with our guys, creating, weekly routines and daily routines for them and checking in and making sure that they were getting everything they needed to feel like they were staying in shape. And obviously that allowed us to have a nice transition when guys came back into the building on a more full-time basis. Because for a while there, our facilities were closed. We weren't even able to access our core courts or our weight facilities. And our coaches also during that time, we spent a lot of one-on-one sessions with guys, watching film, talking basketball, supplying them with some drills. As you can see, many people are asking, how do you get creative at home right now when you don't have a basketball hoop? Some guys were fortunate to have a basketball hoop at their house. Some guys ordered portable basketball hoops to have, so they were getting creative as well. But the biggest thing that we tried to do over the first, month and a half, 2 months, when guys weren't really able to be in the facility, were just to stay connected, give them everything that they needed from a relationship standpoint. What could we do to be there for them? We would get together once a week as a team and really just have fun times. We did everything from Jeopardy games to Family Feud to Name That Baby Picture to NBA trivia. Just a great way to just keep those connections amongst the team. Obviously, they've got their player group threads that they've been having. But now that we're kind of getting closer to finally being back together as a team, I think guys are ready to get back to somewhat of a normalcy, even though it's going to be a new normal. But a lot of credit goes to our players, to our staff to stay engaged during these unique last couple of months to stay in shape, stay mentally strong, and make sure we're ready to get back on the court and have some good success.
One of our MVPs, Jason, asked the question, what has the coaching staff been working on to prep for the restart of the season? Are you treating it like a new season, a new start, or are you trying to build from where you left off?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's something that we've kind of had a lot of different discussions about from the outset, dating back to early March when we didn't know how long this was going to be. We kind of treated the last couple of months as a coach's retreat where we really took a long, hard look at ourselves. Obviously, we have a rough idea of who we're going to be playing in these 8 seeding games, and we'll, eventually dive in on our, kind of wholesale scouting approach there. But we really wanted to take a step back and really evaluate us on a team scale, but also each individual, and really kind of dive into the player development plans of each of our guys, understand where did they make significant growth, what areas do we need to invest more time in. Obviously, we're not really in an actual off-season mode, just given the unique circumstances. So there was a lot of dialogue amongst the coaches about how to keep our guys engaged on their own development, what kind of film were they watching. But then we also took, a different lens at, doing analytical dives and really understanding where we had successes as a team individually. And we took all that information, all those different conversations we had, and now we're kind of trying to figure out what direction do we want to take. That first day that we get to Orlando and have our first team practice, our first team meeting, I think we're kind of in the boat of we want to just kind of pick up where we left off. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Hopefully it's not too far removed where everyone kind of remembers the plays, remembers the coverages, all that, really important stuff. How we work, how we play, all those important things, and just kind of build off of that. We've laid this great foundation over this first big chunk of this first season. And even though we've had some time away from each other, hopefully those conversations that we've had one-on-one, throughout with our players have kept them engaged to the point that when we do come back together, we're going to pick up where we left off. Let's do the things that we've done really well at another level. Let's get back to that, level of play. And then the areas that we've identified, during this kind of hiatus where we can get a lot better, let's try to make that a point of emphasis. And then, let's kind of run with that. Let's not try to throw in new concepts, new plays, things that we haven't been accustomed to doing, new drills necessarily. Let's have a comfort zone that we've had over the course of, the 3 quarters of this season. Take that to Orlando, pick up where we left off. And I think that's going to give us a lot of confidence in our ability to train for 3 weeks together and get ready to get right into these important seeding games.
When we did leave off, you were close to getting Jaren Jackson back. You don't know how close you were to getting Brandon Clark back, but how excited to have the band back together heading into these games.
Yeah, I love that phrase, getting the band back together. That's definitely what it's going to be. Obviously, JJ was, a game or 2 away from coming back when the hiatus started. Justice was actually going to play his first game in a Grizzlies uniform that very next game. And then BC was, I think, only a few weeks away from getting back into game action. So, these guys have been taking a very dedicated approach to their bodies, making sure that, they still had to continue their rehab and all the progression to make sure that they were back healthy. We've been afforded time to do that, and credit to these guys. They've been in the gym when allowed to be working, and I think it's going to be huge to have those guys back in the fold. We've talked about over the course of our season the depth that we have. Obviously, adding Justice to our group is going to be a great addition, but getting the band back together, there's no better phrase than that, to know that we're going to be at full strength coming back to Orlando. We've got meaningful games, obviously starting around July 30th, so to know that we're going to have all of our guys readily available to go out there and to compete at a high level, we're just going to rely on our depth, and to know that guys are healthy, they've been working, it's going to put us in that best position possible.
With Justice in him coming back in that game that was going to be the next game before the shutdown of the NBA,
Yep.
What sort of role were you envisioning, and do you have the same feelings now?
Yeah, I think, it was going to take a little time organically. I mean, obviously we had a general idea, obviously, when we made the trade for him. And then as we got him kind of sprinkled into practice and some of the 5-on-5 games that he was doing on the side, kind of a feel for the player. I mean, obviously, we were so excited to bring him into our, team, because we knew he was going to enhance and just continue to add to what we're growing here with the Grizzlies. But I think he was going to kind of have an organic evolution. A guy that obviously is an ultimate competitor, ultimate team player. He's got a high basketball IQ, just like so many of our players that we already had before bringing him in. Many of those guys, it took them some time to identify what their role was going to be and how we were going to best kind of utilize them. So I think he was going to come in, be a strength to, at least our bench unit coming in, because I know he wasn't going to probably thrust right away. But, eventually also being someone that I think we could eventually finish games with and have a big time role, whether he's playing with starters or guys, that are typically on our bench. But as you see how we deploy our lineups throughout the season, we have so many different mixed lineups. And, if we have guys that are competitors, playmakers, guys that are unselfish and that impact winning, they're going to be on the floor. And I give our team a lot of credit. That's how we're built. So we'll see. Obviously this is going to be, another opportunity for all of our guys, but especially him, to finally get back into the rhythm with his teammates. We'll have a couple of weeks where we're going to, play a lot. We're going to see where we're at as a team and a couple of scrimmages. And then I know, regardless of what his role ultimately is from that first game, he's gonna make a huge impact for us.
While the team has gotten healthy during the shutdown, Ralph, one of our MVPs, he asks, what positives have you and the team taken from this time during the pandemic?
I think the biggest positive that we've taken during this break is just the ability to be home with our families. So many conversations that I've had, with our guys center around the time that they're spending with their moms or dads, their brothers or sisters. Maybe it's a niece or a nephew. I mentioned Tyus obviously with a newborn, but Kyle recently just had a baby. Josh still got a young baby from the start of the season. Jonas got 2 little ones. I mean, you just go down the line. So many of these guys, have kids that they've really just gotten to embrace being more at home. To say it simply. So I can speak for myself. Just the ability to be home with my wife every single day, to be able to be an extra set of hands, around the house, to spend a lot of quality time. Doing date nights at home, binge watching shows. I imagine a lot of us are doing that. Same thing can be said for our players. I mean, just really cherishing times with their significant others, their parents, their kids. That's the one thing that continues to come across. And outside of that, I would say a lot of these guys have really invested time in their hobbies or their other passions outside of their family and basketball. So really investing time in music, photography, might be something culinary, it might be learning on a new topic, something in history that they wanted to study a little bit more. It could be video gaming. All these guys have a lot of different hobbies that I think they've been afforded time to really kind of let that be something to keep them them, in a way, mentally healthy, because this has been very unique. It's a challenge. And for a lot of us, especially our players, not to be out on the court for a while early on during this hiatus, that tested a lot of metal. And these guys to be able to have a lot of outlets to really give them a lot of comfort was really big. So I think to the question, like, that really helped them stay positive, keep their spirits positive, so that when the basketball court became readily available, it was easy to get back on the court and pick up where they left off, because they were definitely in a great mental space.
You're so big into relationships with your players. You've talked about that since day one. During this time, have you been able to keep in touch with the guys as much as you've wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love to be able to talk to these guys 24/7. I'm just kidding. If any of them are watching, they're probably like rolling their eyes at me. But it's been great. I mean, I think it's definitely been a unique opportunity to find a great balance, because obviously, me personally, as I just talked about, spending so much time with my family and really investing in those moments. And I know they're equally doing the same thing. The activities that they're doing at home, hearing about the sessions in the kitchen, or the game nights that they're having, or the treks around the neighborhood, that's time well spent that we don't normally get. So I try to find and pick my spots, to whether it was a phone call here or a text message there, or even utilizing Zoom, a couple times a week, to get on one-on-one with guys and, talk about life, talk about what's going on with them. And if they were in the mood, let's talk some hoops, let's watch some film together, and just kind of keep that mind thinking about basketball a little bit. But I try to definitely have touch points with these guys throughout and just see how they're doing. To the previous question, making sure that they're having a positive experience amid a very tough experience for so many. But I think everyone's been in a great place, and a lot of credit obviously to our coaching staff and to our performance staff as well. They've also too been maintaining a lot of conversations with our guys. So we're still together, even though there's a big plea to we have to stay apart and social distance. We can still find ways to stay together and be there for each other to support. And, that's definitely been a focal point of mine. And definitely looking forward to being around these guys 24/7, even though I won't be all up in their business 24/7 in Orlando. Very excited to, be able to wrap my arm around them and get back to work.
One of our MVPs, Corey, has a question. He said, some reports and video of Ja getting some muscle. What in Ja's game did you want to see improvement other than just natural growth?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, natural growth, especially when, you come into the NBA, your rookie season, you have so much thrown at you. You just mentioned the physical growth. There's the skill growth. There's the personal development growth that you don't often talk about what they're doing, outside of the lines. But, for him, it was establishing really concrete, habits, to balance his work life. I think that's very important for a lot of guys coming in to the new NBA, world that they haven't been exposed to before. But over the course of the season, obviously there's so many things on the court that we wanted to see Ja develop, from his ability to lead, to his ability to read the game, to his ability to identify new areas of his game to grow. Obviously a threat at any minute to get into the paint and finish, but expanding his game outside of the three-point line, all things that he fully embraced and, is so good at learning, reading the game, his individual skills. I mean, he's poured so much time into that. And as you talk about with his body, from day one that he got here to Memphis, he and our performance director sat down and just kind of laid out a plan about his growth for the future, and how nothing changes overnight, but how are we going to incrementally, day after day, 1 year at a time, continue to add to your body's, unbelievable physique and athleticism already, to be ready for that durability that's needed in an NBA grind. So obviously he's done a tremendous job. He's taken full advantage. I know he's been, putting in the work, especially in the weight room, over the last couple of months, to really kind of build up that strength, because as he's learned, as all players do, especially when they're young, this is a new normal for them. NBA basketball is definitely different than college basketball from so many different angles, and he's really attacked all those different angles, and that's what makes him so special. So very happy to hear that he's continuing to add strength, because that's going to serve him and our team so well in the future. He's constantly watching film, during the break as well. So that's going to only serve him and the team. So the fact that he really embraces that, ownership in all those areas is fantastic, especially for a rookie.
With this restart, every game is going to have playoff implications. How important for this young team to go through that sort of experience, and does it feel real that it's going to be that experience in this situation?
Yeah, this experience is going to be fantastic for our guys. Obviously, we're going to miss the opportunity to play in front of our great fans, of the Grizzlies, and obviously throughout the NBA. Just that experience is going to be different for our guys, for myself included. But to get the opportunity to compete against some really, really good teams. We're going to be tested over 8 games. That really excites me, and I know it definitely excites our guys because we've built up an unbelievable first, 3 quarters of this season to have a 3.5 game lead, to be in the 8th seed, to be in that position, to kind of in a way, control that slot. If you take care of your business, is a prime position to be in, and we're definitely going to treat it, as playoffs. We don't want to overthink it and overstress it. I think we all kind of recognize the opportunity that we have and the importance of all these games before the playoffs even start. But we're going to give it the attention that's due to it. There's going to be a huge focus on who are we. I talk about that all the time. Regardless of who we play in those 8 games, we're definitely going to play some really good teams that are going to test us. But are we testing ourselves to our standards of play and the habits that we've been talking about over the course of the season? And that's going to be our main focus. We're not going to live in the highs and the lows of, is it a win or is it a loss? We're just going to take it as one challenge after the other and try to continue to build on that 3.5 game lead and put us in even a more prime position to lock up a playoff spot and go make some exciting news down in Orlando for us.
I don't think teams anymore are saying, who are they, talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. But when it comes to big games and sometimes in the postseason, young teams can succeed because, frankly, they just don't know any better. Is your team a they don't know any better type of team?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think our guys know. They know what they know, and experience in this league is crucial. I mean, it's not said just to say it. I mean, there's fact to that the experiences that you have, especially in high-level games like you talk about Fish or playing the playoffs, you got to start somewhere. I mean, we're fortunate to have guys on our coaching staff, but especially players on our team that have played in big-time games in the playoffs. Obviously, even though some of our guys or younger players haven't played in NBA playoff games yet, they've played in high-stakes games up to this point in this season on certain nights. And, I think our guys kind of take on the mentality of, irregardless of what game it is, what opponent it is, and that's kind of how we message things, let's always focus on us. That seems like that's maybe a little bit of a cop-outer, but if we can just focus on who we are and we're constantly raising our level, we'll be prepared for whatever is thrown our way. Are we naturally going to learn things as we get into more quote-unquote meaningful games and playoff games? Absolutely. But I think our guys are going to be well prepared to not overthink this is what this game means or this is what this result could potentially mean, because that'll detract from what we actually need to do in the game. So our approach in terms of how we practice, we do player development, our performance training, our scouting is pretty consistent throughout, which gives our guys that ultimate confidence in that they are prepared to take on whatever task, whichever opponent that we have. But it's going to be fun. We definitely know that this experience in Orlando is only going to enhance the development of our team. We have young players, but we have a very new team as well. I think this is just going to really enhance our ability to have this build foundation that we've already laid really just exceed year after year moving forward.
One of our MVPs, Jeff, asks, is there any way that the staff is prepared for what empty gyms are going to be like, or can you prepare for that?
Yeah, it's hard to prepare. I mean, given the fact that we're not really together as a team right now, I mean, we are definitely brainstorming, what our practice settings will look like. Fortunately, we're going to get a couple of scrimmages. I think we get, 3 or so scrimmages even before we start the seeding games in those environments. I know the NBA is obviously still working on so many different logistics from the game experience. And, as we get more of that information, we're going to continue to decipher and filter through all that and identify what can we as a Grizzlies organization control while we're preparing down there. So that's definitely something that's in the back of our minds. We're definitely going to focus on what we can control from a drill standpoint, practice standpoint, preparation standpoint that we normally do. But the fact that the game experience is going to be so unique, because when you think about it, during a normal season, we're not practicing in front of, 17,000 fans, and then you walk into a game environment, you have 17, 18,000 fans. So that, in a way, is interesting how you prepare for the game. So it's going to be unique. It's going to be very unique. And I've had a couple of conversations with the guys. It's, taking them back to their high school, tournament games and their AAU games and maybe a little bit of a summer league vibe. But, we won't really know until we get down there. So we're definitely going to have to adapt on the fly a little bit.
And guys are going to have to create their own energy. And it seems like you have some guys on the team, including that point guard we were talking about. They do pretty well creating their own energy.
Yeah, Fish, you make a great point. That's actually a conversation that I've had with a couple of the guys, when we've watched film. I might be highlighting an execution, point of emphasis or, player development skill. But oftentimes in each session, I always highlight the bench. I like to highlight maybe an interaction on the court where guys got really excited and amped up and kind of preparing ourselves that we are going to have to create our own energy. I mean, we talk about so much how our fans here in Memphis, we feed off of that energy. It's unbelievable. When this FedEx Forum is rocking, you see our players engage you guys and, what that means to them. And you can feel when you come back into the huddle or when you leave a huddle, what you're stepping into. But we're definitely going to have to create that. So, it's going to be an interesting experience. I've definitely talked about it with the guys, but we definitely have, Jaw included, but DB's energy, JJ, you watch JJ on the bench, they've got their little unit, depending on whoever's on the bench, whether they're in the game or not. Those guys just coordinate so well to celebrate what their teammates are doing on the floor. And I sometimes look down, during the games, and I love it. It's so respectful, obviously, of the situation, but our guys are having so much fun because they're supporting their teammates. So, that might be something. It's a great point to make when we get down to Orlando and we talk about our game preparations. We might do a drill where I put part of the team on the sidelines and we have to enact some energy. So that's definitely something creative I'll put in the back of my mind that we might actually institute when we start prepping down there.
And you got a couple of veterans. You lost Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill at the trade deadline, and they were huge as far as leadership for this young team. But Gorgie Jang coming in and Anthony Tolliver, who just had the longest 10-day contract in the history of the NBA. These guys have fit in, and Tolliver even told me, he's been able to fit in so quickly because the guys are so embracing and he's having fun playing basketball and he wants to be that sort of leader. You have that veteran leadership with this team, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We have numerous guys on our team. You just named a few of them. Obviously, Jonas, Kyle, Gorgie, obviously AT, Tyus. We have a lot of guys that have had that game experience, but they really take on the ownership of wanting to embrace the entire team and share their knowledge and be those leaders, whether it's in different settings. You hear me talk about it's a setting obviously on the floor, but it could be a game floor, it could be the practice floor, it could be in the weight room, it could be in the locker room, it could be behind closed doors, it could be on the airplane. There's so many different situations that each of them, play to their strengths with their leadership. Obviously, it's one thing to use your voice, but a credit to those guys. They lead by example, obviously, with how they work, how they prepare on and off the floor. And I think you use a great word about embracing, and that's something I've talked about over the course of the season about how, it's often easy just to say, well, your older players or your more experienced players should be the leaders of the team. And I'm a big believer that should be organic. And we have so many leaders on our team, whether it's a rookie, second, third-year player, or guys that have been in the league for 6, 7, 8 years. All these guys identify their opportunities and avenues to be leaders, and I want to encourage that. And it's great that our guys have really embraced that kind of philosophy because it allows them to embrace each other, and that's what creates those dynamics on a team that lead to great partnerships, great relationships that then translate to great partnerships and relationships on the court as well, the chemistry you talk about. But I would say through the course of the season, obviously you mentioned Jay and Solo, obviously huge for us, over the first part of the season. But those connections, you see them organically happen, and I think our younger players have really helped our veteran players, and vice versa. Our veteran players have helped our younger players, and as a coach, to be able to take a step back and go, wow, we have this here in Memphis is something very special.
Coach, to change gears a little bit, over the last month there's been so much discussion and conversation about social injustice. The NBA has always supported its players to speak up and believe in them and to give them a voice if they want to share. What's your message to your players?
Yeah, I just love being a part of a greater community than myself. Obviously, you mentioned the NBA support of being a leader in creating the conversations and being a partner in the action of change when it comes to racial and social injustices, and to be a part of an organization such as the Grizzlies that really supports everyone in the organization. Obviously with everything that happened, we got together as a team. I wish it was in person, but it was virtually, and really immediately talked about we're here to support, engage in conversations, because we all want to pull in the same direction of making change and making this a better world and equal for all. So it's definitely been something that over the last couple of weeks we've had a lot more conversations in team settings and in smaller group settings, obviously one-on-one with guys, over the phone or in Zoom, and really just collecting all of our thoughts about how we can all make an impact and really, be these stewards of change, and to know that, we're doing this in partnership with our organization, but also with the members of our community as well, and trying to make a difference here at home in Memphis. It's really encouraging to know that I'm a part of that organization, and we're all doing it together. So I know there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of conversations to be had, but it's very encouraging to know that all of our players, all of our staff are really, passionate about being a part of that movement. And obviously, as you mentioned, the NBA to really bring everyone together from all teams, all positions, all responsibilities. It's very encouraging, and so happy to see right now.
And I know you believe in the message of getting out and voting, and important for your team, but also important for Grizzlies fans and the entire Memphis community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something I know the Grizzlies are in partnership with, and finding those avenues. And, obviously there's crucial elections coming up, and, just trying to be, finding all the areas that we can to really support, the great freedoms we have in this country, to really support those endeavors. I know some of our players are participants in that. I know the NBA is, finding opportunities as well. Definitely a big proponent, and understand that everyone is got a lot to process right now, and take advantage of those opportunities coming up.
One big NBA note today, the retirement of Vince Carter, one of the great players that the game has seen, and we were fortunate enough to see him here in Memphis for a few years, and couldn't have been a greater guy, and his especially for a guy of his stature. You missed him in Atlanta, but you've certainly seen him around your days in the NBA. What do you learn? What do you take away from Vince Carter and what he brought to the league?
Yeah, it's sad/special day. Obviously, to see Vince Carter, hang it up. I'm trying to remember exactly what his quote was, but it was amazing to watch his career. I remember when he was in college and jumped onto the scene, early in his rookie campaigns, and everyone thinks about the highlights, the dunk with the national team or the dunk contests, and all the different teams that he's been a part of and the great successes he's had as a player. But I also think about what I learned from afar about being the ultimate pro. I mean, he was absolutely the ultimate pro, and I know Grizzlies fans got to witness that firsthand here. But his ability to connect with so many players, teammates, so many coaches, you could feel that from afar. Even though I was never up close with him and on the same team with him, I missed him when he came to Atlanta. But you hear the stories, and you hear the same stories over and over again, so it's true about how he was so dedicated to, for 20 plus years, 22 years, continue to play at a very high level. That amount of work that you have to put into your game is a great example for so many players in our league this day and upcoming generations to aspire to be and follow, because he was someone that did it at the highest level for a really long time. Obviously, how many generations of players he's encountered when he first came in the league, and now as he's making his step out of the NBA in retirement, what he's left the game. He's definitely a player and a person that's left the NBA in a better place. And I know there's so many lives that he's touched, and we're definitely going to miss the highlights and all the big time plays. And I know one of his last games was actually here in Memphis. Came in and knocked down a couple of threes, and I just remember those moments because everyone celebrates the long history of his impact on the game, and it's going to be fun to send him off into retirement and celebrate all those wonderful days. We're definitely going to miss him because he meant so much to so many people in the NBA.
Yeah, just hope he doesn't want to be a sideline reporter for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's my goal. All right, Coach. Well, we're tired of seeing you on Zoom calls. We want to see you on the sidelines. What's next? When do we practice? When do we leave? What's going on? What's ahead?
Yeah, still a couple things to be determined right now. I definitely look forward to having y'all have the opportunity to watch me on the sidelines. We still don't know our game schedule yet, but again, targeted dates are that end of July frame where we'll be back on Fox, playing in front of our fans, and then we will leave sometime in early July. Still waiting on a definitive date, anywhere from July 7th, July 9th. We'll all get on a plane, head down to Orlando, and a couple days later start practice and have about a 3-week ramp up, and as I mentioned earlier, a couple of scrimmages. So we're getting close. So I know everyone's kind of still holding on tight, clamoring for this to happen, and so am I. I'm counting down the days till we get back together as a team and get playing and get back to playing some competitive basketball. But we'll be here very soon. Those are probably the dates, and I know there'll be a lot of reporting happening while we're down in Orlando. Excited to know that we're going to be doing some opportunities to engage with our great fans, our season ticket holders, our MVPs, with the coaches and the players while we're there, so you guys can at least feel a strong presence there and understanding of what's going on in the life of the Grizzlies in Orlando. We want you all to, partake in that experience as well.
Well, Coach, best of luck in Orlando to you and the team. We look forward to watching you and look forward to getting you all back and seeing you in person. And don't forget your Believe Memphis masks. Take those with you as well. Best of luck, and thank you so much, and thanks for taking the time out today.
Yeah, thank you, Fish. Thanks for everyone for logging in today. Miss you guys. Continue to stay healthy and safe. We'll be back soon in action on TV, and then hopefully very soon back in person. But look forward to seeing everyone very soon. Thanks a lot, Fish.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Coach. And thank you to all the MVPs for tuning in today and watching with Coach Jenkins. And we'll have basketball for you coming up here at the end of next month. Can't wait till it finally gets going. Keep it here on Grind City Media for all the latest updates and all the information from Orlando and from here in Memphis as the Grizzlies get set and the NBA gets set to restart the season. Have a great afternoon, everyone.